Alright, now we're going to go over some of the different planes and directions on the body. First, we're going to go over the planes. So there's three different types of planes that are important. There's the sagittal plane, which is going to cut you right down the middle. My little girlfriend right here, my little homie, I cut her right down the middle right there. It's going to make a left and a right side. So if you're doing me sagittal in my anatomical position, you're going to cut me right here in the middle. Okay, then there's the transverse plane. So basically cutting me in half horizontally. So if I'm in the anatomical position, you're going to cut me in the transverse plane. You're going to cut me right down my stomach horizontally. Then there's the coronal, which is going to be towards a side angle, and it's going to separate the person into a front and back side. So doing it coronal to me right now, you're going to cut me right down the middle, and I'm going to be cut into the front and the back. And then we're going to go over some of the directions. There are 6 directions that we need to know. The first is superior and inferior. So think of superior as above and inferior as below. Anterior and posterior. Anterior is the front, so in my anatomical position this would be the front, and the back, which would be towards my backside. The medial and lateral positions, so the medial would be toward the midline, and lateral is away from the midline. So I could say that in the anatomical position, my humerus, this bone here, is closer to the midline than my thumb, right? Because my thumb is away from the midline, it's further away. And then there's proximal and distal. Proximal is towards the limb, so these are only on your arms and legs. So proximal is towards the limb, and distal is away from the limb. So that would be when someone says, for example, like your fingers versus your elbow. But when you're comparing them, you're not comparing them to each other. You're just saying where is one in relation to the other one. It's kind of tricky. And then there's 2 other directions, which are just for 4-legged animals. There's cranial, which is towards their head, and caudal is towards their tail. Ventral, which is towards the chest, and these are true on animals such as like dolphins or those with fins and stuff. That's why it's a dorsal. That's why you hear the dorsal fin. And dorsal is towards their back or their fin. And then there are also directions, dental directions. So there's 4 different planes in your mouth. There's the upper left one, the upper right, this would be like the top section of your teeth, and the lower left and the lower right, which is the bottom section of your teeth. There's mesial direction, which is towards the midline, so pointing here towards the middle. And then there's distal, which would be if I'm moving away from the center in the middle. And there's labial, which is towards your cheek, so that's going to be pointing this way towards the inside of your cheek. Or lingual, which is pointing towards the inside or roof of your mouth or your tongue. So those are the important directions and the planes.